So, 2016, we got Invasion, a pretty great crossover episode. 1 year later, we got Crisis on Earth X, a step up. Yeah, you go from aliens invading Earth to Nazis from an alternate universe invading us. And it was still pretty good. This year, I don't know if it's necessarily a step up, but it's certainly a good one. Elseworlds. I did a video to prepare for this one previously, but yeah, all three parts have now come out, and I think it's a pretty good crossover nonetheless. So, Elseworlds, the third kind of big crossover event in the Arrowverse. Okay, it's best to talk about this one in the separate parts that it came in. Okay, part one. Barry and Oliver both wake up one day to find that their lives have seemingly been swapped around. I.e., Oliver is now the Flash, Barry is now the Green Arrow, Oliver wakes up in bed with Iris, and Barry wakes up sparring with Diggle. They seem to be the only ones who are aware that they have crossed lives. Everyone else simply thinks. Everyone else, when they try and explain the situation, simply think they're crazy. In order to try and find some clarity on the issue, or find someone who believes them, they decide to travel to Earth 38 to visit Kara and see if she recognises them, which she does. While over there, they also encounter her cousin, Clark, played by Tyler Hoechlin, and his long-term girlfriend, Lois Lane, debuting in the Arrowverse, played by Elizabeth Tulloch. Yeah, but eventually they do manage to convince their friends that something is not quite right, but have to return to Earth 1 shortly afterwards as, thanks to Oliver, an android has been released into kind of Starling City or Central City by the name of Amazo, which can kind of copy the powers of anyone it fights with. Yeah, pretty good way to set up. Part 2. After discovering who might be behind everything, Oliver, Barry, and Kara travel to Gotham City, where they swiftly get into trouble, but are bailed out by Kathy Kane, also known as Batwoman, Bruce Wayne's cousin, played by Ruby Rose. Yeah, they also discover that the man who has been kind of altering everything is an Arkham scientist by the name of John Deegan, who exists in the comics as Dr. Destiny. He has been given a kind of special book by a being known as the Monitor. I think it's Monuvar or something. Yeah, and he has been told to alter the world to how he sees fit. Kind of a big kind of fight, some big riots ensue, and they have to get the book back. They eventually do, but it eventually falls back into Deegan's hands, who begins kind of rewriting reality once again. Part 3 comes around, he has rewritten reality once again, and this time Barry and Oliver are not superheroes, they're not each other, but they are in fact now a pair of thieves known as the Trigger Twins. Also, Kara is being held in a kind of prison at Star Labs by an alternate version of her sister, along with several other alternate versions of their friends, such as alternate versions of Diggle, Killer Frost, Alex, and the Earth is overseen by Deegan, who now looks like a black suit-wearing version of Superman. It's a race to get the book back, to defeat the villains, and ultimately return reality to how it should be. Now, this crossover is just a ton of fun to watch. I mean, I did note, just before the crossover event was due to start, I did note in one of my earlier videos that I was kind of a little bit disappointed that the Legends wouldn't be coming into this, but frankly, this episode was epic enough without them, and I feel that if they had brought the Legends in for this particular crossover, it would have become a little bit confusing. I mean, this was dealing with reality, not so much timelines, and for the Legends to come back, I think it would have caused even more chaos had they been involved. So I love the Legends, but probably best they did keep out of this. Also, Kev, towards the end of part 3, I think there was some kind of reference to the very first Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, in that Barry suggests that in order to kind of allow themselves to get the book, he and Kara should run round the Earth in opposite directions in order to kind of slow down the rotation of the Earth, stop time, or slow down time to allow themselves to get the book. To which Tyler Hoechlin's character says that they'll probably die doing this, which I think was kind of a nice little reference to a kind of infamous move that Christopher Reeve Superman did in the first Superman movie. Yeah. As I said, the casting for this episode I thought was pretty good. I mean, you've got Jeremy Davies as John Deegan, who he's kind of a slime ball in this episode. He's someone who he's not kind of threatening or scary on the surface, but once you start talking to him, once he starts speaking, this is a guy who knows he's in control. Elizabeth Tulloch, I feel, did very well as Lois Lane, and LaMonica Garrett did provide a pretty sinister version of the Monitor. The only character who I felt in this crossover was, to me, a little bit wasted, was in the trailers they showed the kind of, and the photos, they showed Barry, Oliver, and Kara meeting up with John Wesley Shipp's Earth 90 version of The Flash, of Barry Allen. And in the photos, it looked like it was a big deal. It looked like he was going to be part of the major fight scene. But towards the end of part 2, he's there for about 5 minutes, and then suddenly he's gone. It's just like, wasted? You could have done so much more with that. You could have done some big things. I mean, I know it was only supposed to be a small kind of Easter egg for the fans, but I honestly felt they could have done so much more with that. Okay, Ruby Rose, in the role of Kathy Kane, a Batwoman, the cousin of Batman. Now, I know there was a lot of controversy regarding this casting when it was first announced, but so much so that eventually Ruby Rose, I think, deleted most of her social networking. But watching her in this episode, she's great fun. I mean, I think she does a brilliant job as both Kathy Kane and Batwoman. And I do kind of love the way that they built Batwoman. I mean, this was a character that practically had to be built from the ground up. I mean, we've seen other versions of other members of the Bat family before in movies and TV. We've seen countless Batmen, Robins, we've seen Batgirl a couple of times, we've seen a version of Red Hood, but Batwoman was a character they had to start really from the ground up, and I feel she does marvellously in this. I especially... Yeah, sorry. I mean, as I said, she is wonderful in part 2. That's the only place she really appears. But then she also has a kind of small role right at the end of part 3 that I feel is kind of brilliant. In that Oliver and Barry, they've got everything sorted. Everything's going back to normal. And then Oliver receives a phone call from Batwoman saying, yeah, we may have a problem. And that's something that they're apparently setting up for next year's big crossover. I mean, when I saw the kind of small promo right at the end of it, I suddenly thought to myself, okay, is this something that they've added on, that someone's kind of a very good video editor has added on? But I've looked around and apparently it's genuine that next year's big crossover will be based on a comic that I have read, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, I think they were kind of hinting towards that with the Monitor appearing up in this crossover, but just to have it kind of confirmed, it was just like, really? Are they really doing this? I mean, this could be good. This could be something really big. I mean, as I said, this crossover, I admit, I think was pretty good. Wasn't as strong as the other ones? Nah, I don't know yet. But if they're going to do Crisis on Infinite Earths, blimey, that's quite astounding. And you know what? They're going to have to bring in everybody for this. They didn't want to use the Legends this year, but pretty much they're going to have to later down the line. And you know what? I feel this was a pretty good crossover. I mean, it gave us some good storylines, some good plot points, some brilliant characters, and left us drooling for more at the thought of what's coming next. So there you go, my short review of Elseworlds. I thought it was pretty good. Anyway, until the next one. See ya.